Good evening, everyone. My name is Brodia, and this video is my top 5 world building techniques or tips. It's very late at night because I decided to record it this time because I'm very smart. I had a nice holiday, and then I got into two addictive games, that being Smite and Overwatch. And you may be wondering, why aren't you playing Marvel Rivals or Smite 2? Smite 2 is free to play next week, and my PC cannot run Marvel Rivals. Anyways, so I always start with a campaign primer. I choose what sort of conflicts are happening in the world and how our heroes fit into the story. Because it's all about the present and what our player characters at the table are doing. So, for my campaign of Mithril, taking place in the country of Mithril, here you can see on the right, I decided to have major themes of political conflict, religious conflict, and resources, and minor themes of new technology on the rise and prejudice. With the political conflict, I made it so that while the capital holds the most power, each of its great cities in its domain hold enough power to sway the balance if difference of opinions were to arise, and difference of opinions often do arise. As for religion, I wanted to have a dominant religion over the region, so I chose Deep Shalesh as the god representing the ocean, riverways, and other bodies of water. Mithril functions a lot on these waterways, as you can see on the map, so it is very important to both the people's normal life, which is why I chose Shalesh, Deep Shalesh as the god. And finally, resources. There's a lot of great resources, but each of the individual kingdoms seem to harbor only a select few, which is why their cooperation is necessary, but could cause other afflictions. As for new technology, because D&D is now moving towards being more open with firearms and magical tech, I felt like having a university as well as a factory, so this would be Twin River and Anchor Fort, be more present and more lively into the worlds and cause sort of an industrial revolution in the way that regular mundane life is done, as well as warfare. And then prejudice. The Mithril people are kind of locked from the northern mountains covering them as a shield from what goes on the north to the Grand Dunes that cover its south, and to the Weeping Willow Swamp to the west. They're kind of on their own and have created their own little bubble, which they kind of lack information outside of their own personal space, which also brings on the rise of conflict, prejudice, and people in this world wanting to change that. So, in terms of political conflict, I have the story of King Isaac and his wife, Queen Jezebel. They hail from outsider origins, the both of them. Isaac's father was an orc from the north, and his mother was always. People were judging her behind her back for marrying such a person, and now he too has extended this prejudice against him when he married one of the desert princesses, Jezebel. And then there is the opposite, Vulcan Silverbeard. He's a dwarf, and he has spent about half a century in this kingdom, and he believes that his time and age are far more precious and far more of a responsibility of him to act as a much more responsible leader. Yet he is honor bound to the code of protecting the Mithril Kingdom, as his forefathers were. Then we have religious conflict. The pontifex of the Church of Shalesh down here, the Shalesh's Peninsula, has conflict with the Oasis. Their people have always had conflict, and it is once on the rise again. He doesn't like their religious beliefs or their freedom of certain choices, and he believes that they are somewhat of scourge or blight, whereas the Sultan of the region wants the religious people off of his back, and he's delving into other methods of doing so. And there's also resources. Elliot von Rathkinder owns the biggest lumber... I forgot the name at the moment. The biggest lumber company in Mithril. And him and his forefathers have always owned the greenwood, taking from the woods as much as they needed to. But his own son has bent on expansion of the business. Then there's the Ordelia family. Marceline? Well, they lack in actual resource. They do have a lot of political power and land, so they're often trading will and the promises for their political offerings and resource trading. Whereas something more simple like the Silverbeards, here we have Tony, who there's always a Duergar leader meant to go even below the surface of where dwarves could somewhat reach safely, and then rule or protect those Duergar down there. And they mine everything for the most part in the region. All of the expensive iron, silver, and gold, and of course, Mithril itself. And then Adamantite and... forgot the other ones. What's the magical one's name? Yeah, it's fine. Alright, race or species origins. I went through literally everything that was printed legally, and I just rewrote it, trying to match the same energy. But if I think things were either problematic or I don't think fit, I change it up. So we have the basic stuff, like elves and humans didn't really change all that much, but Dragonborn. Dragonborn now descend directly from dragons. They live in small tribes, and they normally traverse in what the dragon they're based off would naturally be. So white and silver dragons will traverse tundras or mountainscapes, for example, and then blue and copper dragons will live by the sea. Here is Zacharias Nix, the black dragon working for the kingdom, as it's like the head tactician or the royal advisor. There we go. Then we also have changelings. They directly descended from mimics, and they were widely considered as monsters and creatures to avoid in the old day. But given the lack of superstition over the years, people have become unaware of their existence for the most part, and they have not done anything to cause such panic. However, sometimes when someone goes missing, it turns out they were just a changeling the whole time. Orcs and half-orcs. So once thought to be mindless brutes, they actually live their lives to improve their own physical physique. Orcs normally travel in groups and are normally monster hunters or mercenaries because they like their skill in fighting, and it doesn't compare to most. Then we have tieflings and ASMRs. Long ago, devils and angels fought over the rulership of the planet. But after the war, the battlefield shifted, but their mortal coil of blood was spilt into the populace, and that's where tieflings and ASMRs came from. Their blood has just mixed in with mortals, and this doesn't describe the good or evil intentions of the person. People are born how they are born. Alright, people of importance. We have I've created certain people of importance. We have the Silverbeard kids. And also, for most of my characters, I've honestly just stolen them. I based these three off of Onderon Saga's three siblings of Buddyman, Randall, and Mortimer. So now we have a Jade, Sapphire, and Onyx representing each of these three characters, and how they interacted in that game will also pretty much be the same in mine. I have these three appearing in the mini campaign I have written, and they will play more of a role moving forward. Then we have dualities. I was gonna say a white knight and black knight, but I changed it to silver because I just couldn't I just couldn't with the name. So we have the duality of good and evil. The silver knight works for the Mithrils, king and queen, and their children. Always has been passed down through generations as a role, while the Black Knight has always served the Silverbeards, again passed down from generation to generation. However, their desires to serve their lords are much more. One is more loyal to the person, while the other one's more loyal to the code of ethics. And we also have the future monarchs, Waylon and Adora. At time present, I think I made them 15, so they're not going to play a huge role in it at the moment. But when they get older, they are expected to be replacing their father when he reaches his old age. So the journey to them becoming adults. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's going to be a 10-year time skip. I already told the players that. And I'm just running through putting in characters now and where I see them going in the future. Alright, history. So I starting off with all that, then I went back to okay, what's like the basic settings? And everyone loves gods. But I think I can expand that to any immortal. So I decided I'll take Titans, the Elementals, the Colossus, the Dragons, and then the gods. So the Titans are immortal through their elemental makeup and being. Terra, I just have Smite's Terra here because it was on the mind. But Terra is the planet that they are currently occupying on. That, and I guess Sol, the sun, would be another example. And then Luna, the moon, and other great giants and elementals. Those would all be in Titans. And when they die, they just turn into the smallest form of their being to rebuild themselves again. Dragons are immortal by age and by wisdom. They will never die until they are killed. They essentially stop aging at some point. And the older they get, the harder they get to kill. I think everyone knows what dragons do, so we're going to move on to the gods, who are immortal only by concept. So they can live forever and be untouched, but they have to have something believing in them, and that's what gives them faith, gives them power. So I also started with a major historical event in the far past, and that, which to me, was the War for Terra. So long ago, war raged across Terra. No mortal was safe. The gods reigned divinity over the land. The dragons left their mark flying overhead, terraforming the land as they spoke. And finally, the children of the Colossus raged out against such acts of defiling. The mother is what I should put there. The reason for such a calamity is unknown, but in the end, it was stopped by mere 5 mortals who crafted weapons so flawless they can slay the immortal. This happened only 3 times. The first was the god of death, who crumbled as his slayer ascended to his divinity, to his divine domain. The rainbow platinum dragon fell to the might of an arrow pierced upon his art, and the mountain king's mind was broken forevermore. With all factions retreating, the war upon her scorched body subsided, and Terra began to heal as she fell into a deep slumber. So that's something that simple like that. It also describes the 8, well, not all the 8 legendary weapons, but the 8 legendary weapons I've also put in the game for the players to pick up as MacGuffins, but I guess MacGuffins don't they actively get to use the weapons, so they're not MacGuffins, but they're MacGuffins. And then I also made a timeline. This is the last bit of the timeline. But I just built a timeline from that event all the way down to what's happening and like what do I think is like most important. I started describing the region, uh, when things got built, places got named, conflicts that happened, a lot of the past conflicts between the Oasis and Celestial Peninsula, for example. But we cut back here into like the current era where Chief Gormag of the North West Orcs unsuccessfully attacks the Lock, which is that North Bastion you can see in the first slide there. Peace negotiations begin with all the Orc tribes in the North a year later. And finally, that is when Queen Lydia von Mithril, the half-human, weds the chieftain Gormag, now King Gormag. So that's his father and mother. So he's born, or that's born. Then Anchorfort begins development on on spell-powdered guns. When they start developing firearms. Prince Isaac von Mithril marries Princess Disabel, now Disabel von Mithril, the queen. The twins are born. Then Anchorfort completes guns. So they've had guns for about 8 years now, and they're just the little flintlock pistols and some muskets. And then a famine starts under his rulership. I should have put the fact that these two are dead because they're old. Well, I should put that in now. Good thinking, me. So there is a famine under his rulership, and it lasts about three years and a half. And that affects his current standing with the people to this current day, which is, I give it a flat, it's 1500. Alright, and lastly, the player characters, they matter. Now, it's good to have a lot of this world stuff built already so they can tie their characters into it. So, for example, we have Sophia Dawnbringer. Look at that. Hi, editing me here. That clearly says Seraphina, like Seraphim. That's the whole gimmick. The player character got her art commissioned. Let's go. Everyone else can draw, so it's. Anyways, as an ASMR, she embodies. This is a little bit from what they wrote about their character. As an ASMR, she's embodying the light blessed by the sun, of the gods of the sun and radiance, who chosen her as their mortal champion. But there is a price to pay for her returning to her divinity. She must fulfill her god's grand mission on the mortal plane. Ooh, what is that? So we are having her work under Deep Shalesh at the moment, even though she is more angelic and fit to the holy theme. The god of sea, Deep Shalesh, has ties with the other major bodies of elements, such as the sun. So, Dawnbringer over here has been tasked to be the light that reflects upon the water to cleanse this land of sin. This is also the same goal that the Pontifex has, and his 5 cabinet members. So she's working with them for most of her life's time, and she's directly contacted with Captain Caspar, one of the 5 cabinet members, to work under Vulcan Silverbeard to find out what he's planning, because something big is going down with the borders at the Oasis and Celestial Peninsula that they don't want them interfering with. Then we have Naomi Harkin. She was traversing Feywild, and she was nearly mauled to death by a Jabberwock. When she cried out, she was able to get saved by Herne the Hunter, but at the cost of her firstborn child to join his wild hunt. Her child will be the main character of the main campaign. So Greenwood itself, which is where she's from, has a lot of connection to the Feywild. It even has a world tree. She's already fitting into that part of the landscape as a... Forgot if they were a Shatterkai or a Astral Elf. One of the two. But anyways, they're an elf. And then finally, Hatchet, her daughter, is now Fey-touched for her Ranger subclass. Great, fantastic. At present moment, I didn't put in the other three in the slides just yet. Hey, it's me again in the morning. I did decide to continue and finish off the last remaining three characters. So we now have Argonal. He is our barbarian, blue dragon. This is not their player characters are chosen for them. I unfortunately don't have artwork for the other three, so I gave them descriptions enough to match. So he is a father, and he was running after his two sons. Cal, the eldest, had gone after his younger brother because he had an argument with his mother, Kath. They find themselves, well, Argon finds himself in the woods trying to call out to his family and growing more desperate in anger as he delved deeper and deeper. His fury never dwindled, but it's just more, there's more to that. His anger wasn't just his own, but it was the anger of the woods that was filling him with the blood of the roots. So he also has a connection to Greenwood, and as Greenwood has connections to the Feywild, it is most likely that his own family members were taken through Fey portals or other such trickeries. And I believe he's a wild tree barbarian. I didn't get their character sheet, unfortunately, just because of D&D Beyond. I'm pretty sure they're wild tree barbarian fans, why they mentioned it. And finally, it's possible, and we even discussed this, that they might want to move their main campaign character to be one of the missing sons. Then we have Phalor. Phalor's a guy. The only thing is, every single time they brought up his special glasses, I can only think of the old woman from Ruby, who I already forgot her name. That's why her picture's there. So one day, a man comes across his shop. He's an artificer, by the way. Comes across his shop begging for help to save his daughter. Sometime later, after he helps the man and his daughter, a person in black robes comes and asks where he's seen the two of them. He tries to lie, but unfortunately was cast some kind of permanent blindness spell on him. And for days, weeks, and even months after, he struggled to move on with his life until a caring woman came into his life. And that is Naomi Harkin, the other player character from earlier. So it's really good when player characters already have a pre-established backstory history together. So when we move into a campaign, there's already that great amount of ease in. So these two already know each other, which is fantastic. As well as this fits in the themes of inventing new technology into the region. Finally, we have my player character who's a little bit of a goober. They haven't named their character yet, and everything highlighted is all the backstory I've gotten. I know everything else about their build. They're more of a, what is it? Designing the actual character stats and builds before the character itself, which is it's fine. It's totally fine. But from the little backstory I do have, you can actually do a lot of things. So for one, they're from space. They're from out of this material plane, and they have landed here. I want to say they crash landed. That fits in line with another NPC that was also supposed to be from Face. He's supposed to be a one-off character, but he might be more important now that he has a friend. So they crashed here on planet Terra. So he's also part of a space empire that has been ruling for such a long time, and they are wildly loved by their people and how they treat their subjects. Now, this could be true. Or it would be really interesting if this was just propaganda that he, living in the capital, has grown up with, and that's all he's been told all his life. Where maybe their treatment outside of their normal ruling zone will, like, maybe planets they might have colonized or regions or territories they might have subjugated. That could be a way more interesting story, and we could maybe see this in parts that transcend dimensions, like the Feywild, uh, Shatter, what's it called? Shatterkai? Where are the Shatterkai from? Shadowfell, the Shadowfell. Um, or even other normal dimensions, or planes. So his parents are actually the current ruling family. This would make him the prince. However, the ownership of who gets to be the next leader is based off of merit. So he's currently climbing the military ranks. And what's funny here is that I don't believe his kingdom or empire would know about where he's landed. So it's really interesting to have a princely character have no authority in a mysterious land, which I find interesting. And then finally, he is a homebrew class called the Dragon Rider. So he has a wyvern with him, or sorry, dragon with him that he's bonded with. So that is an important part of his character. So yeah, there even with smaller backstories, there's still a lot you can do with it. So yeah, that's cool. So that's the end of it. Those are my 5 tips. I hope you'll learn something. So with that, like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you all next Wednesday, hopefully not Thursday again. Have a good one.